Hi everyone, so here is Moonlight Soul and Marisa from Growing the Flow, and this is Stars and Cards episode 22, where we're going to be diving deep into Sagittarius full moon. Hello Marisa, nice to see you again.
Hello, good to see you too. This is our next episode of Where in the World is Mila?
I know, right? Past two episodes each in different country, and now it's the UK.
Okay, so there we go. Now you're in the UK. I'm still sitting here experiencing life through you, these adventures.
Well, there is one more country that's gonna be add up soon, so we're going to be moving.
All right, look forward to that next adventure. But until then, we have Sagittarius full moon kicking off with great adventure and exploration on offer. So here we are.
Absolutely. And we have introduced the story, the choose your adventure, with the new moon in Sagittarius. So I wonder where everybody is with this adventure choosing by this stage 6 months later, when we see a little bit more about what is manifesting for us with regards to the seeds we were planting in December 2023.
Yeah, and do we feel like we can close that chapter? Okay, I sought out that new adventure 6 months ago. I've had the experiences, I've gathered from it, whatever wisdom has come forward, and time to turn the page to something new. So we're kind of looking again at what we're closing out, what we're leaving behind, what's coming with us. This time I'm really feeling I've already shared my phrase that came forward for this lunation is joyous exploration. So really connecting in with joy, this vibration of joy and just excitement, and what really makes us feel, again, the inner child comes up, playful, and just all about the experience for adventure and exploration. So we can really think about what we want to take with us for this next chapter.
And I feel that's really in resonance with this 29 degrees Venus Jupiter. During the full moon in Sagittarius, the Venus Jupiter conjunction is happening a few hours before, so they both still in Taurus. Venus Jupiter in Taurus, 29 degrees. 29 degrees is the culmination, is the end. But Sun is already in Gemini, but they're conjuncting because this full moon is happening on 2 degrees. So very early degrees. Sun is on 2 degrees of Gemini, making an exact trine to Pluto, which is happening the day before. So that's where we feel this lighter energy, because Gemini is suddenly we have a choice. Like all these things are opening up for us, and we are not just stuck in this. Taurus, as we know, can be very rigid, as I would be the first one to put the hand up because I'm Taurus sun. But suddenly with Gemini, there is all this myriad and multiplicity of choices, and this is where we're moving into, because now with the 29 degrees of Taurus, it's like, okay, throughout these transits, we had the opportunity with regards to Jupiter, especially the past year, because Jupiter is about to move into Gemini 2 days after the full moon. We had the opportunity to learn about the stories we were telling ourselves for all this time. And now we're moving out of that, because suddenly we can decide, choose, do I want to hang on to this story, or is it a story that actually is not even mine, because Venus as the ruler of South Node in Libra, and it came from someone else. And now suddenly we are recognizing that actually we do have a choice. So what we gonna do with it?
Yeah, and when we sort of reflect back on those stories, maybe through a wider lens, because there's this encouragement to like see the big picture, expansive, right? All this Jupiterian energy, we're expanding into these new horizons, but the same old stories, but maybe through a new lens to say, one of the things that was really cool, I'm working on the empowerment reading now for the full moon, and bringing in this comparison to like when a baby is learning to walk, and sort of like that whole wobbly, unsure footing, and falling and getting back up again, and the thought that when we look back on some of these stories, and whether we're carrying any like regrets or shame, embarrassment, or expectations that weren't fulfilled, or whatever tends to leave us kind of feeling low about the story, actually seeing it from a higher perspective to really see why that story may have played out. What did we gather from that?
Mm.
And again, having that focus of like mining the gold, extracting the goods, the wisdom from it, and then taking that into the next story, and sort of recognizing why that chapter played out for us on our journey, so that we were able to embark on this new chapter, this new story. So seeing it maybe through a more a wider lens, but not so critical, and more through this filter of like finding the good in all of it in order to write the next chapter.
And what you describe is exactly the sextile from Neptune, 29 degrees Pisces, you know, because it's the Neptune, Pisces, 29 degrees is all the same energy. It's the energy of what have we learned in this cycle and what holds a meaning that we want to take with us into the next cycle, and what now lost the meaning because it became, you know, outdated, or the chapter has ended now, we don't need to keep dragging this with us. We have the love and compassion and gratitude and grace for the experiences and the wisdom that we were able to gather through this experience. So this literally is in a highest possible vibration, because even with the, you know, 29 degrees in Taurus, and we always look at the opposition, which is the Scorpio, like all these experiences led to us feeling more connected to ourselves, more resilient, to really discover who we are, to test our muscles and learn to trust ourselves, rely on ourselves more. So just like you said, like all these stories, all these experiences, we can look at them one dimensionally and see them at the face value, or we can look at them multidimensionally, hold the space for the pain that potentially the experience had brought with itself, because it's one of the emotions that are within the spectrum of emotions we experience as humans, but at the same time seeing the higher meaning, the deeper meaning, and understanding why that had to take place. So that literally is the sextile from Neptune on 29 degrees.
Mm. And plus, any good story, any good drama has both, right? You have those two masks, the happy one and the sad one. Like, you know, there has to be some of those experiences to create that balance. So it brings us into balance, that we experience the ups and downs and the twists and the turns, and makes for a good story, I guess. So
And that is the sun in Gemini, the two
Mhm.
masks next to each other, right?
Yeah, perfect. Well, it's here. Yeah, we're stepping into Gemini season here as we record this. So awesome. Why don't we get our Queen of the Moon out here? We're very curious because we both shared which cards we've each pulled in our separate recordings in the last couple days. So we're going to see, they're both in here. So we'll see what the Queen of the Moon is bringing forward to sort of kick off
And I
our
was just
chat.
thinking, what is really interesting is that to share with people watching this, we were meant to record this on Friday, but the universe didn't want us to record this under the influence of Sun still in Taurus. And at the day, I believe we had the Mercury square to Pluto, and it was like, no, it's not the right time. You need to wait till Monday until it's the Gemini season.
It is. It's so funny how that worked out, because we made every best effort. We were here. We showed up. We were ready to go, but we weren't ready to go. You know, it was
And
like,
the internet was not playing with us
it's not. I mean, we still managed to talk for
for 3 hours.
we covered a lot of good stuff. It's just not no record of it.
We
But
were
that's
going
good.
over the 29 degrees. We were culminating.
Yes. So now here we are with all of that behind us to embark into the new. So let's see what's coming forward.
And the fresh energy of all the conjunctions that had to take place during the weekend.
Purity.
Oh, cool. There we go. The new fresh start. The Mars conjunct North Node last night. New cycle had begun.
New fresh energy. And this is 10, right? Or is it 30? I can't see because it's so light on here. Oh, it's 30. Yeah, it's number 30.
Which is number 3, Jupiter.
Snow moon. So that's beautiful because it's giving us that white canvas. It's giving us that blank slate. And I love even the covering over the eyes from what we're physically seeing. Again, really, really pulled to go within in terms of, you know, where to from here, and being inspired intuitively, being inspired from within. This is really in alignment with the cards for this week. I just pulled those yesterday for our collective energies this week. And the challenge is the Hermit this week. Blocker challenge that we can face in terms of, you know, going within and hearing our own wisdom or following our own guidance in the midst of what can be quite noisy or quite busy. this card always reminds me of that hush that when a new fallen snow, if you've ever experienced it, depending on where you are in the world, but it just has this silence that everything feels very like, like you're in some kind of a soundproof booth. You feel like it's just the acoustics are different, and it's sort of there's this hush. So it's making me think about that energy with this clean slate and writing the new story.
Yeah, and I feel it's also interesting because we had the new moon in Sagittarius in December, which it potentially might even be represented by this card. And then the cycle that got seeded in December 2023 will end with the next new moon in Sagittarius completed. That's where the cycle will culminate, which will be again in December 1st. And the difference between these two is that during the new moon in Sagittarius 2023, Pluto was in Capricorn. Now Pluto is in Aquarius by retrograde, preparing for his last retrograde into Capricorn, which is happening in September, throughout September till end of November. So during the time of this next new moon in Sagittarius, which will end the cycle, Pluto will be again in Aquarius, but to stay. So this is where I feel that, with this, eyes covered, we don't really see, because there is all these 29 degrees that had to play out this year, with the last Capricorn retrograde. And as we just were saying, over this weekend, we had the conjunctions, Venus conjuncted Uranus, Sun conjuncted Jupiter, Mars conjuncted North Node, all these culminations and new beginnings. So we don't truly see, because we are starting from a fresh page as of now, and we don't know what this next cycle is going to look like once Pluto is fully done with Capricorn since 2008.
Yeah, so the rest is still unwritten, and we have this energy of a fresh start. And so the mantra that goes with this card is, I know why I do what I do. So that's interesting, because whether, again, I think the choose your own adventure is a great place to kind of reflect on that 6-month window, and taking us back to that time period to think about, okay, I made the choices I made, and there's this energy of cause and effect, of the consequences that come from, I made a choice, I went in a direction, I had an experience, and now I have this ability to sort of reflect back and see, like, this notion that I know why I do what I do, is that, again, with no judgment, as detached as possible, to just observe choices we've made, directions that we've moved in or didn't go in, why that may have been, or what the motive was behind it, or the conditioning, or the patterns, the stories, the limitations, whatever they were. And again, just recognize that it's all just coming into your awareness to use as, again, tools to determine where to from here, knowing what I know now, and having the wisdom of experience from having moved in whatever direction or whatever season. Because it's interesting too with the snow, as many of us are, that's a distant memory now, and some are just preparing to step into winter. It's very in alignment with the messages this week, because I've been working with the runes, and we got one that was for ice and one that was for water. And so we were talking about frozen versus flow, and this energy of the thinking of the snow and being frozen water, the water being the feels and the emotions, and, just sort of thinking about how that influences what we do. Also, how our emotions impact why we do what we do.
And I feel it's also all of these old stories being uncovered through challenging situations, like with the Uranus, and we had the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in April, right before the full moon in Scorpio. And now the new story started between the two of them, whether we take into consideration the last conjunction that happened in 2010, 2011, or the one, in Taurus, which happened in 1941. So I feel that, especially because during this full moon in Sagittarius, Mars is wedged right in between the North Node and Chiron. So again, Chiron is coming out for us as the wounded healer. In order for us to fully start with a fresh, clean slate, there are these things that are frozen in time, the frozen in time that need to melt and allowed to flow, right? Allowed to like go, allowed to go. And that's, I think, is quite a paradox, because we feel like, well, we're starting from a fresh page. We don't want to talk about that anymore. That's gone, that's done. But it is and always will be part of us. So I feel like in which shape this memory exists. Is it frozen and stuck, or is it there but it's flowing? Because, you know, this is again bringing us to Cancer as the archetype, and moon is Cancer, of course. Is the same archetype, and it's about the memories, the ancestor line, the where we came from, the identities, all that make us who we are right now, because we are not just a single identity, we are the amalgamation of everything that came before. So are these memories, feelings, and all that frozen, or are they flowing? Because they're there either way, because they are part of who we are. So with this purity and this sun in Gemini and Sagittarius full moon, how are we perceiving this?
Yeah, I like that. I love this. Frozen or in flow? Is it
Yeah.
frozen or flowing? Because, you know, being frozen is a snapshot in time. There's when you said that, it makes me think of you know, how they'll uncover, you know, an ancient something that was frozen in the ice down deep, and it's like literally preserved, and you can actually see something from millions of years ago that's still sort of really preserved just as it was, and then we kind of explore what was that about and everything. It's just interesting because sometimes we hold on to this frozen image or memory or perspective of things that we experience through the lens of a different version of ourselves. You know, we've talked about this before about fears, which incidentally was the Queen of the Moon card that you pulled, was fear.
Yeah.
We talked about, you know, your memory of something. I've said this about Never Ending Story. I don't know if a stars and cards can, we already said choose your own adventure. So I'm going to go there and again say Never Ending Story. I was so afraid of the Morg. I think that was his name. That was the dog, the wolf animal. And like I remember that scene in my mind as like, ooh, look away, like, you know. And then the first time I saw it as an adult, I was like, okay. I mean, those special effects aren't so great. Like I can tell that it's not, you know, like, but in my mind, it was frozen as something that was really scary to look away from, that I couldn't face, you know. And it's a silly example, but it's saying how, to your point, like we can have these beliefs or these memories frozen in time. So they're very rigid, and it's time for us to allow them to flow so that they can take a new form. That's how we allow the past to inform the future, but we're not stuck, frozen in the past, you know, continuing to perpetuate something that's no longer the version of us that's here today writing this new story is not the same version that experienced it in a different time. So there's this, I like that, this frozen or flowing.
Yeah, that's interesting, because it's literally what was coming up to me yesterday when I was doing my practical application, and you know, me walking down the memory lane again, revisiting the old haunts and stuff like that. And that's exactly what it is. You are not the same person you were 6 months ago or 1 year ago or 5 years ago, whatever. You are a different version of yourself. And even though we might feel like, oh well, I'm still responding the same way, or encountering the same situation, same people, same anything, but that's exactly why it's happening, because now you are hopefully older, wiser, you have more experience, more tools to tackle that situation, person, experience in a different way. And this is, you know, as I was sharing yesterday, this is exactly how we're going to create a change in the world, by re-experiencing some of these situations, circumstances, patterns that are frozen in time. But now we as a human collective, individually and collectively, because of course the collective is made of individuals, we are not the same as we were 100 years ago, 500 years ago. The evolution had gone on, we progressed. So even though we might say, well, we haven't learned anything as human race, but that's not strictly true. And now we are a new, hopefully improved, more evolved version of ourselves than we were in previous incarnations. We can tackle this situation differently. And this is how we will change the pattern, whether in our own life, by going to the old homes and meeting with the same people, or memories face to face, and having the opportunity to now respond in different way because you are a different version of yourself, or whether we look at it as a collective experience and how are we tackling these situations, circumstances, and patterns, hopefully as a more evolved species, right? Which is you know, questionable.
Mhm. Yes, that's the hope. That's the intention anyway.
Exactly.
All right. Well, let's see. We're bringing in a different deck this time. So we're going to bring in some new energy. Well, new old because we've used this one before because we like to use our soul decks, and Light Seers is another one that we love by Chris Ann. So Mila suggested this one, and I am excited to switch it up a little and see what comes up for us for our to know, to do, and be with the Sagittarius full moon. Let's see what comes forward.
I think actually we might have used it for the new moon in Sagittarius. I have a feeling because I think the world card or something like that came up.
Ooh, we'll have to
I don't know.
check.
I have like a feeling, you know, but I have like a
Yeah.
deja vu moment, and I think I'm pretty sure we used the same deck for the new moon in Sagittarius.
And I'm sure we use the Oracle deck that we're going to use too. So that's so funny because we, without even realizing it, just felt energetically drawn to these decks again. So that's Sagittarian energy alive and well here.
Like a continuation of the story, right?
Yeah, definitely the next chapter. Oh, here comes so many wands came up in the empowerment reading too. So King of Wands coming in here with some fiery Leo energy to know. Yeah. Definitely looking like heading out somewhere with that wand on
You
a
know,
new
the dread, right?
Yeah. So to do action around this full moon, let's see what's coming forward there. Ah, Queen of Swords. So the king and the queen coming in of fire and air. Coming in here. Okay, because we've got Sagittarius, we've got Gemini season, so it's all coming in. Okay, and let's see, we've got to be with this full moon. How to be.
Temperance.
Temperance. So that balance, that sweet spot in between, that's actually perfect because fire, air, and then we have this balance coming in here with the temperance energy. Wow. So the King of Wands is definitely bringing that fiery, passionate, adventurous, courageous energy. And this is a message that we've been getting about, you know, stepping out boldly and doing the thing, being courageous, and you will blossom, you know, all the different messages that we've gotten over the last few months. But I love the red, as you pointed out, because it's like you are safe and secure. And, you know, with all this Taurus season work, getting grounded, practical, taking steps, you know, maybe focusing more on things like the finances or the practical, the material, you know, those types of things. We're really ready to step out and put some of that into action, you know, but from this new perspective. So there's this like passion and creative energy that's coming in too, which, you know, I feel like the Gemini energy is bringing some of that too, like more playful and creative, and you know, also as far as like you know, maybe being more social or more external, which would also be like a charismatic Leo energy that I feel with like too. So just knowing that that energy is available, that you can step into, and the fact that we have a king and a queen is also speaking to sort of you know, this is like the next level. You know, it's not, you're not just coming in here. We talked about like the version of us that from childhood or previous versions of us in different generations and previous lives. And, you know, we're leveling up each time. And so there's this really like embodying a lot of this energy that's coming in. What do you see here?
I feel like with the King of Wands, because it is still a fire, you know, and Sagittarius is a fire, and this is an illumination, and he's holding the torch, which is kind of like, again, shining a light onto something. Like we say, like when sun is shining, somebody is holding a torch, and sun is being in the sign of Gemini, which is now, as of now, sun enters into Gemini. It's all about multidimensionality. Like, which way do you choose to look at the situation. How do you identify the situation? So with the King of Wands, which is of course about the action card, it's the wands. It's like, what do you do with this energy? Because it's the fire. He even has it in his hands, the fire of creativity. You have the Leo behind him. Leo is the creativity, is the authenticity, is the self-expression. So we go back to this story that got stated in December, and this is actually, I mentioned this in my videos, this is the last lunation, that is the full moon to the new moon that got seeded in 2023, because the next lunation will be the Capricorn full moon. The next full moon will be Capricorn full moon, and the new moon in Capricorn was already the 2024 moon, so that was the first one we entered with. So this to me is very significant, because as I said, the Pluto at the time of the new moon in Sagittarius 2023 was still in the sign of Capricorn. So there was a story being seeded, which is not necessarily the story that's going to take us the entire way, because it's Pluto still in Capricorn. It's more the story that's going to be seeded this year in December 2024, because Pluto is already Aquarius. It's the new energy post everything that's happening in the meanwhile throughout 2024. So with this king, holding the torch and having this red, which is again about the base chakra, how much you trust yourself, how much this basic stuff is being tackled with this 29 degrees Jupiter Venus in the sign of Taurus, because it's connected to this lunation because of the degree being so small orb, between the sun and the Jupiter and Venus, only 3 degrees. So with the Leo, it's about, are you ready to step into your authentic self? Because as a King of Wands is the full embodiment, right, of the wands, which is that fire of creativity. You can do it. And with the 29 degrees of Taurus, it's the opportunity to fully embody the archetype, like understand it. So are we ready? Are we ready? Because the energy is there, and we know that each archetype, each sign, each tarot has a polarity. So if we're not ready, if we're not there, then yeah, we can get lost in our narcissism and in our, whatever. So are we ready to create? And of course, if we are safe and secure within ourselves and we have strong roots, we're going to be creating something completely different than if we don't have that.
Yeah. And if you're tackling it from this perspective of like the bravery, the courage, the boldness, brings us back to this notion of like, we can tap into when we're fully embodying. So then even the child, even the baby, like I said, there's just this desire to explore and to experience with nothing holding them back in terms of like, but I could fall, I might look stupid, I might fail in some way, like, all that stuff that gets us up in the head with all that, air energy. This fire is like really, being bold, being courageous, and going for it, because it's all an experience and it's all going to continue to unfold. And I feel like, the double court cards, because a lot of times the court cards are, it could be you or someone else in your orbit, or really something that you are encouraged to embody. And I feel like this is a good combo, because there's the fire, the charisma, the boldness, the courage, all of it. But then the Queen comes in. And it's funny because I was thinking, sometimes the Queen of Swords can be a little intimidating, and there can be this sense, like, I would even say, ice queen, right? Because when we talk about the ice and the frozen, because you can actually see in this card in the corner this little cup that's being sort of behind bars, like corner. So it's like, that's the emotion, that's the feel,
locked away,
and keeps that tucked away at bay, and this is the to-do card in the spread that's talking about being really decisive, unemotional, but not cold, not to the point of completely aloof of of emotion, and also not harsh. So finding that balance, which is where that's coming, the temperance is coming in to say, yeah, I need to, again, look the big picture, look at the broad spectrum when I look at all of these experiences and all the different things that have unfolded to bring me to this moment. And now with all of that in consideration, I'm going to make a decision, or have some type of ability to discern. It's not emotional. It's not overly, caught up in all of those feels, because it's just all about navigation. Okay, have these experiences, gathered these tools, gathered these, this wisdom, whatever I have, and now where to from here, and sort of making that decision and then acting on it.
Yeah, because the Queen of Swords represents Libra. It's so, to me, it's like justice, but it's coming from other people rather than from destiny. And because the flags that she's got there, one is blue and one is the red, which is like, yeah, we sometimes need a little bit of a water on this fire, because otherwise we just burn up, like this guy. You can look at the man in the first car, you can look at it like, is he in control of that fire? Should I be scared? He's got all this fire going on there. Can he can he hold it? Of course, we know he's a king, so he's supposed to hold it. And this is the queen. So, just like you said, in a sense, all these cards are telling us about balance, even temperance, because it's about balancing these elements, balancing the elements. Like, yeah, we need to have the fire to create, but also we need to have like, you never know where you're going, just like you said, the child, like innocence, having the courage and just go for it. But with this Queen of Swords, it's like, but is there a balance? Are we just acting out just for the sake of acting out because we have all these, like a teenage boys, just because they have all this fire, all these hormones, doesn't mean they should go and burn the city with it, So it's like, there has to be a certain level of maturation, which of course with both of these archetypes, queen and a king, you expect there to be. So that's what I feel we are invited to, like, yeah, like we have all this fire because we all have this inner child and the creativity within us, but is it balanced? With the same with the woman, like, yes, we have all this wisdom, we have all these thoughts, we have all these ideas, with all this air, all these informations, but is it balanced? So how are we using all these energies that are becoming available to us? And to me is the invitation into Capricorn, responsibility, maturation. Even though there isn't obviously Capricorn card, there's no earth here, but I feel the undertone of the hidden Capricorn, because these are the full embodiment of that suit. To me, it's the self-mastery. Each card, King of Wands, self-mastery of Wands, Queen of Swords, in a sense, yes, she's not a king, she's a queen, but it's the feminine aspect of it. So it's like it has to be balanced.
Yeah, she's like the spirit of it. So like the idea that like the air, it serves a place, like using the logic and the thought and the connecting in with that aspect. But I like the elements, how we're being brought into utilizing all of it from a very again mature, which I think can carry with it. It's funny because it's like when you're in this sweet spot in your life where, you've experienced a lot of things. So you're not as like young and dumb, as they would say you were when you were first, left to your own devices to do all the things that you just wanted to do that you could never do. But you're not completely, jaded and cynical as like someone who's seen it all and, and maybe is also very frozen and rigid and stuck in their beliefs, and finding that midpoint to say, and this is something I used to always tell myself, like, oh, I just want to like write it all down now, or like tell myself so that I don't forget, like that I understood so clearly as a younger person what they don't get. They don't understand them, those older, when you say mature, it carries that notion of like, old, but it doesn't, but that's the old story. It's like, no, there's this lens of experience, of having enjoyed, taking from all of that experience, where if there was a period of time in our life where it was supposed to be the best time, and maybe we feel like we didn't really get to maximize all the experiences or things that happened, that now, hindsight, we have this opportunity, this clean slate to do it again, but with what we know now. So there is like a seasoned approach, like it's mature because it's been through a few things. We like to say, not my first rodeo. We say that often, to say like, been here before. So what would I want to take from that? And then where do I want to go from here? So I feel like there's this opportunity to keep that in mind, when we are making these decisions, but like, as you say, not so impulsive and just crash and burn, because that's, probably not going to be the best way to get there either. You can choose to take that route, but consequences, cause and effect and such. So, just seeing these two sort of working together in a way to write this next chapter and to step into the new. And again, I mean, this is telling us the best way to be is balanced in the middle way, you know. And I love it because this one actually shows us the sun and the moon. So we have both the polarity, but there's this juggling in the middle, and even like almost like an infinity sign to show, you know, this ebb and flow between the two. And you know, temperance would say patience, balance, moderation, you know, dipping our toe in. Which again, the mature approach too wouldn't be like this knee jerk, you know, just got to do it all now either. So there's this sense of like unfolding into the story that I'm feeling there.
Yeah, and temperance also, you know, like represents the healing, because we know in the traditional tarot, the angel has one foot on the ground and one foot in the water, right? So it's like staying grounded, being connected. And it's just looking at that woman and that man, it's so funny because, like, from my vantage point, she's like, and you know, he's got this fire, like, I'm gonna heat up under your butt to melt your, you know, rigidness or something, which of course that's not what that cards represents. But you know, so that, you know, like, it's interesting also that all these figures, you know, he's ready dressed in red, she's dressed in black, both actually represents base chakra, you know, because we know that the black crystals, which are the crystals of protection, are, you know, connected to base chakra, you know. So what are we trying to protect ourselves from? You know, all these emotions, all that water around her. And then you got this guy in white, you know, the last one, which is like this angelic, and it's just like, you know, you have these two angels on each shoulder, and then you have this guy in the middle, like, hey, can we just find some middle ground already, you know, like heal all this stuff, disputes and divisions and whatever it is that comes from too much fire or too much logic, too much thinking and stuff, and can we just find the balance there somewhere? So I feel, you know, again, like, it's all these different aspects of ourselves, different elements, different polarities, and it all has to be in balance, because it all has a place to and role to play in our lives. And this is what we're really trying to achieve with these nodes being in Libra, Aries. We're going through all these extremes on every possible level and every possible areas of our lives right now, to try to figure out how do we come closer to balance, you know, how do we find the balance. And it involves this unfreezing of this stuff that is frozen in time, and we want to let it flow, and we want to heal it, and also make something new out of it, you know, with that creativity and stuff. So it's interesting that the guy is, you know, he has the white top, and he's like the purity card, blank slate. Like, when we find more balance, with regards to what was and what could be, we can start from the blank slate again.
Yeah. And that it's all, the whole spectrum is a part of the experience of those extremes. So, you know, really, again, the seasons and being just in flow so that you can move with, you know, and this is like wherever the wind blows, you can see the air, the wind that's blowing, the flags are, everything's moving in this direction. I like what you say about him just sort of prodding her with his torch, you know, you know, put a little fire under there to get it moving.
The swords frozen.
Yeah. And it brings in the playfulness and having fun, and everything doesn't have to be so serious, you know, like, you know, you would see the Queen of Swords as very proper and serious and, you know, very intensely thoughtful, which there's a place for that. But the sweet spot is in the middle where it's like, hey, you know, unbutton your collar, relax a little bit, you know, like, it's okay, a little of this, a little of that, you know. So it's really about taking from each of those things to step into the new. And it's, again, like, you don't, you know, you need to feel the imbalance in order to bring in balance. You have to know its opposite in order to. So again, they're all just experiences, they're all just informing the journey. And so we take from that what we've learned, and, you know, take with us what's going to help in this next chapter, which is also going to be filled with all the experiences, because that's what it is to have this human experience and to have all of these different aspects coming in. So yeah.
It's cool because, you know, like, just when we're looking at it from the very simple way, full moon is an opposition. And any opposition wants us to find a balance. Where is the balance? So we have the sun in Gemini and moon in Sagittarius, The sun is trined by Pluto retrograde in Aquarius, moon is sextile by it. So there is definitely a support from Pluto each way. But we know Pluto is in Aquarius and Uranus is in Taurus and just had a conjunction with Venus as the ruler of the south node that we are trying to evolve, you know, the one in Libra. And Venus just had a conjunction with Jupiter and they're both on a 29 degrees of Taurus. So nothing is straight cut because we have all these new cycles and the 29 degrees. So, you know, this is where we're trying to find a balance by experiencing the totality of everything that came before. We remember what we remember. We remember who we were. We can see, you know, how it all worked out for us until this point, but we don't know where we're going. We don't know who we're becoming and stuff. And we're trying to find our balance. We're trying to find our equilibrium in all of that because we can see what is obviously not working. Just like you and I were telling in our, you know, private conversation, we can see the past relational paradigm, for example, romantic relationship, and we know what doesn't work anymore. But there is not some alternative to switch it for, like, hey, you know, how about you try this way? Like, we all trying to figure it out. And in the meanwhile, we just trying to come, like, you know, edge closer to the balance because we know where is the crisis. We know where is the, you know, the imbalance of that all. So I feel that that's really, like, you know, with this Sagittarius full moon opposition between the sun and the moon, yeah, we see, like, you know, the fruition of the stories, but we don't know where we're going. You know, we don't know where we're going. So all we can do is just go with it, have the experience, and try to come closer to some kind of balance point. And that's what we all doing here. You know, all of us incarnate at this time. We're just trying to come closer to balance.
Yeah. But you know, you know, this isn't going to be the last chapter. This isn't the series finale anyway.
Oh,
So
no.
we expect to figure it all out, right? We expect to have new adventures. We expect to have new experiences, but what are they going to be? And it's not getting so caught up in our head or with the sense of like perfectionism that we've got to get it all right this time. No, we're stepping into it joyous exploration. Like, what am I going to learn from this chapter? You know, and it's going to have these different experiences, and there's going to be the happy and the sad and the highs and the lows and everything in between, because it's going to be the good stuff that makes for a good story for the next chapter and the next, you know. So if we can have sort of that detached big picture view to say that we're creating a masterpiece here of humanity, like this, you know, expansive collection of stories and experiences and chapters that of which this is just one. And so was that last one. So there's another reason to not take it so seriously. It was just another chapter, you know, it was another experience that you're now taking from it. I like to say taking the best and leaving the rest and moving forward into the new. So, you know, if that can be healing, if that can bring us some solace or comfort to know that, you know, this is what it's all about, is the recalibrating, the rebalancing, finding our footing. And once again, it's just, that continual flow of moving between the elements, the seasons, you know, all of it. So it's interesting how we have a little bit of everything sort of depicted here through each of these cards that came forward.
And that's actually what it is, like with everything, you know, it's never really over, it's never really finished. We know there will be another new moon, full moon in Sagittarius and all the other ones as well. And it really is that with every new moon, in every sign, there is this like a new flavor. Like, you want to try this flavor or this new product on the market, this new cookie or this new whatever. And then we get midway through, like now, full moon, and we go like, you know, like, okay, what is the feedback here? You know, is this working for us? Do we want some more juice out of this? Or, you know, what's going on here? And then, you know, and then eventually the cycle will end, a new one will begin. There is always beginning and ending. So just like you said, you know, approach this with joy and childlike innocence in a way, because yes, there will be always the next one. There will be always next iPhone. There will be always next Samsung. There will be always next whatever, you know, the next thing, you know, the next tarot deck, whatever you know, because it's always the part of the human experience to have more desires, because when we get to the point in our life where we don't desire anything anymore, then that's it. That's it, game over, because we came here to explore, we came here to have an experience, and the Pluto is the soul desire for incarnation. So when the soul decides, okay, I experienced what I wanted to experience in this body, in this incarnation, then it's time to move on. So it will never end until we're ready to change the form, and then it starts all over again. And so that is a cycles within cycles within cycles. But the joy, the joy and approach it with your, whatever makes you most happy. That's something that's been popping up for me as, as well, like in many cards, many readings, because, like if you know that in whichever mixed bag you're gonna choose, that you don't know what's in it, that there's gonna be something you like and something you don't like. But that's guaranteed. There's gonna be something you like, but there's gonna be something you like a little bit less. It's like this, when we used to buy these bags, which cost certain amount of money and you have no idea what's in it. And there was gonna be some garbage and there's gonna be something that you like. And that's life, right? That's life. So like the spirit always tells us, well, choose the one that gives you the most joy. There's going to be something you don't like about the experience, whatever the experience is. Like somebody, for example, let's say somebody decides, I want to go to India, and they know they're going to have very likely some very significant, mysterious, spiritual experiences, but they might also get food poisoning, because unfortunately that's what very often happens when you go to India, because it's a very different environment. If your gut is not used to it, you weren't born with it, from different background, whatever. So this comes one with the other, but you're very likely to have the most memorable experience of your life because of what you're going to experience there energetically. But it comes one with the other. It's the same like with marriage. You're going to have some things that you're going to gain and some things you're going to lose, and everything is that way. So it always goes down to, well, what makes you the most excited? You go for that one.
Yeah. No, I love that. It's so true. Yeah. So you choose accordingly. And so again, maybe initially you make the choice that you think is expected or what somebody else wants, or, just the safe choice or whatever. But again, through the maturing process, you come to say, I already know that this is what I like. So I'm going to choose what I like. I'm going to choose what excites me, because that's a lesson learned through time, through experience that I might not have if I hadn't experienced those unpleasant things. And some of them are unavoidable because they're just, like you say, you can't help. I don't think anybody chooses any kind of food poisoning or any kind of stuff like that, but it happens, right? It's all a part of that natural balance of things. So
That's
yeah.
life. It's life.
That's life. There was this show, it was called The Facts of Life, and it was on in the 80s. And the theme song was, you take the good, you take the bad, you take the rest, and there you have the facts of life. And it was like, you take the good, you take the bad, it's like all of it. It's all in that mixed bag. And you don't ever know what you're going to get. So when you do go out on that adventure or that exploration, it could end in a very different way than you saw it going, and one that may not be your best memory, but it's all part of the experiences.
It's all part of Sagittarius. We have to stay
Yeah.
open-minded because it's a mutable energy. It can change at any point.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fascinating. It's just about exploring these new horizons, because if nobody was the brave one to try to do something stupid, humanity wouldn't get very far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just by always playing safe or just sticking with what we know, you don't learn from that. You don't expand at least not as quickly or as much the depth of experience by having a more diverse, way of approaching things, which is going to involve both, yes, logic and thought and reason, but also the passion, the creativity, the fire, and the feels as well. You can't forget the water, the flow, and also the earth energy of the physical too. They all play a role, and all in balance. So
Exactly.
yeah. Wow. Okay. So should we pick our oracle card?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. We are going with the Enchanted Map by Colette Baron-Reid. I'm sure we use this. I think it probably was the Sagittarius.
Sagittarius humor.
I'm so curious now what cards came up. We'll have to look that up. But let's see for the full moon what we're gonna get here. The Enchanted Map. Where to from here? Never ending story. Choose your own adventure. What's coming up? Ooh, coming to life. Card
Oh wow,
29. Talk about all
29,
those
the
29
29 degrees.
degrees. I've never seen this one before, so I got to see what she's standing on there. Oh, wow. It's 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 like a statue, like frozen, the feet. So
Oh
see how
wow.
it's like, I don't know if there's a glare, but it's sort of like it was a solid, statue type or frozen that we're breaking out of, coming to life,
Yes, yes,
breaking out
yes, yes,
of the
yes.
mold. And there's a little butterfly there. Yeah,
And she's
wow.
reaching for the light, for the essence of who she is.
Yeah, she's holding that light, that orb coming to life.
And,
Wow.
and this is usually how I try to, literally, this depiction is how I try to explain to people Pluto square. You know, the Pluto square, Neptune square, Uranus opposition, the so-called midlife crisis. This is literally what it is. That we as humans were being conditioned by so many layers of BS that when we get to this point in our, like, mid-age, then we decide that I don't want to play this game anymore, and then we decide I'm breaking out of this mold, this mold, and that's literally what I feel that she's doing. 29,
Well,
the end.
that's perfect because what we were saying earlier, that's the time period of life that I was thinking about, like where we are, where we're headed. Well, I'm ahead of you, but we're in it. We're in that time period of, I now know, from my previous experiences, I can see all the things that I would have done differently or experiences that I had and how they've informed me. But I'm also still in this period of ability to remember it wasn't that long ago what it was like. So in other words, before we're too rigid and too set, and that's not to say that that's everyone's experience, but there's this there's a storyline that says, the difference between generations, or when you're young, like I said, young and dumb and ideals and all that, versus when you're older and set in your ways and maybe more cynical and critical, breaking free and kind of bringing together all of it, like the mature wisdom and of experience and understanding, but also having that passion and excitement for starting to recognize midlife and having a sense of, time and the preciousness of it and maximizing, each chapter. So it
Yeah,
just kind of reminds me of that
that's
energy too.
interesting because I was just talking to my friend today, who is at the same age group as us, and she's just getting married for the first time. And I was saying to her that, like, we are being again conditioned to believe, like, oh, you should have done that long time ago before it's late, or you old, or whatever the hell, whatever is the story. But actually, every single time of our life has gifts. It has gifts, and yeah, it's got challenges, but there is, I mean, yes, most people would say, oh, yeah, 30s, 40s, whatever was the best time of my life. But, every time is the best time of your life because that's the one you're having right here, right now. And every single time of our life has gifts. It doesn't matter what period it is. So there is no too late, too early, too little, too bad, too much, too nothing. It's like everything has the balance. There is some positives and then some challenges in every part of our life. So it's just a matter of this breaking out of the bloody mold and the bloody story that everybody is supposed to follow because this is what somebody else decided out there. Who and why, who knows? But yeah, you decide. With this 29 degrees, it's like, well, you make your own story, you make your own script. So you decide whether being 20, 30, 40, 50, or 80, it doesn't matter what is the best time of your life and why. You decide because it's
Yeah.
your perception, right? You are having that experience. And yeah, and I love how she's reaching for the light, the true essence of who she really is.
Yeah. And also, like, it's all reminds me of grabbing a ring, like that. What sometimes when you go on the merry-go-round, there's this tradition of grabbing a ring. As it goes around, you reach for grabbing the ring, which is like sort of having the experience, going for it, reaching for it, and not just staying rigid, frozen, stagnant. There's this energy of movement and reaching for it. And maybe you missed it this time around, so you get it on the next go round, or maybe the next, because that's the other thing I think that goes with it is like, oh, if I would have gotten married when I was younger, then I could have this, or if we had waited to have children, then we could have traveled, or we could have done this. And it's like, hey, choose your own adventure. and I know why I do what I do, right? So it brings me back here. Those choices were made under particular circumstances that unfolded in your life that led to other experiences and knowledge that you now have, or things that, so, it's seeing it from this wider perspective, and breaking out of that mold and the restrictions of that I feel there.
Yeah, because even like these experiences, like what you just use as an example, when do you choose to have children or get married? It always comes around. Usually things usually come around. They don't look the same necessarily, and the circumstances might be different. You are a different person at different stage in your life. But imagine somebody who does get married very young, has children very young. So yeah, by the time you're 40, 40 some, your child is ready to leave the nest, and you're still young, and you can go and enjoy your life. And the other way, if you do choose to wait until you're 40 to have children, then yeah, you presumably could have gone and enjoy your life in your 20s and 30s. And and everything's got pros and cons. Yeah, in your 20s, 30s, you don't really know who you are. Maybe you don't have the financial stability, security, the maturity to really enjoy it the way that you would when you're 40. But you enjoy it in a different way. When you have children when you're young, you are a different parent, and then you have a different experience when you, for example, exploring world when you are a little bit older. But everything has pros and cons. There's no better and worse. It's just different. It's just different.
Yeah. And it's all about having those experiences. So I love that just on its own. Now I was looking at the oracle message to see what's coming in here. Coming to life, something beautiful is being born into your life. When you look at your life, can you see how you've grown and evolved over time? Perhaps you've shed skins and identities and created new ones, or at the very least, matured in your ideas about yourself and the world you inhabit. Things take time with Spirit's timetable. It's rarely in sync with your own. This card indicates that a long-held dream is beginning to show signs of life. You must try not to coax it along or shape it according to your desires. Spirit knows the best form for the manifestation of this dream, and your life can become even better than you could possibly imagine. Now is the time for reverence and awe. Allow the contours of your path to be carved by the hands of the divine. All you have to do is show up. So, yeah, there's this energy of what we said. I mean, that really described what we've been saying about this maturation, this maturing, but also not being so fixed and rigid in our idea of how it should go, and just letting it be more like clay, that can be molded and then scrapped and changed to something new. It's evolving, it's changing form, and it's actually really exciting when you look at it that way, and have that kind of wonder about all of it.
And that is Sagittarius, because it's a mutable energy, because then we have the last trimester, in a sense, you can say, the Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces, which is the last 3 of the zodiacal wheel. So this is the stage in between. This is the mutable sign, and then you have the last cardinal sign, Capricorn, last fixed sign, which is Aquarius, and last mutable sign, which will be Pisces, which is where things will dissolve, and then a new cycle will begin from that. So that's why, yes, it is about being flexible and looking at all these different possibilities and perspectives, because Sagittarius, Gemini come in as a couple, and the more we open ourselves up to our multidimensionality, which is what it really is about these days, with this Pluto in Aquarius trining, Sun in Gemini, this is literally what is going to take us further, what is going to take us to the next level, what is going to take us beyond everything we experienced before. So with the Sagittarius full moon is illuminating us that which was, which can be part of what will be. It might very likely look very different, but it's about this: how do we choose to perceive it? What are we focusing on? Like, are we focusing, as we started with, just on this top layer, this black and white, just this linear way of looking at the situation, or are we opening ourselves up to this multidimensionality, which will then offer completely different horizons? Because when we look at things from different, multidimensional lens, suddenly million different new horizons will open up. We are not limiting ourselves by looking at things just the one way that that was the old story or something. So I feel that, you know, the Sagittarius and Gemini play such an important role at where we are at right here, right now, because of everything else that's taking place. And this flexibility and mutability is very important because we are stepping into the uncharted territory.
Yeah. So again, it really is about that thawing out of that frozen, fixed way and allowing ourselves to be more in flow, you know, and the more flow state we're in, the more accessible the rings become, the more we can reach out and grab things that previously seemed like a fantasy, you know, or stuff of stories. That doesn't happen in real life. That happens in stories. Well, that's what the stories are imitating life and vice versa. So it's really cool when you think about, you know, just sort of taking from all of that and writing your own, you know, own story, but also remaining open and in flow to the universe and what's possible, you know, and again, the more multi-dimensionally we can look at that, the more opportunities for storylines open up.
Absolutely. And it's interesting with the, you know, with the movies and what we thought was possible or impossible, because majority of the old sci-fi we look at, we actually see it in reality right here, right now. So, you know, once upon a time, you know, 20, 30 years ago, we watched some sci-fi movie and thought, oh, this would never happen. This is not possible. And now we look at the world and we go, we're not so far off, you know? So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, it's again, it's drama, so it might look and feel a little bit different, but the notion is there of this idea of looking into the future and seeing what we can imagine it could be and what's possible, and then sure enough, we manifested it. We brought it into reality, maybe inspired by those stories or being, you know, getting that inspiration from seeing that play out. So that's why I know movies and stories and music are always such great muses for inspiring life.
and this is why the King of Wands is important, because it's saying, well, choose the one that feels the best to manifest, right?
Yeah, go with what lights you up, what brings you joy, and seek out that joy and explore and be open to experience.
Exactly.
Wow.
Well, amen to that, huh?
Yes. We'll take that. That sounds good to me. I feel good about this moon. I'm excited for some of that new energy to come in for sure.
Exactly. And yeah, Gemini season usually is lighter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
So this was awesome as always. And yeah, please
Yeah.
introduce your latest offerings to us, Marisa.
Well, here with the full moon, I'm doing an empowerment reading for the full moon. So now, in addition to my monthly empowerment packs, I offer each lunation a la carte. So I do have a special for a full moon reading to get in on what I'm working on now. And I can tell you, I'm really excited about the deck that I'm using and the themes that are emerging. It'll be a full recorded video with the spread and the astrological guidance. And there's a little ritual that I'm sharing for the full moon. And then there's a part 2, which is your personal card pulls. So that's my current offer that I'll share the link for. And then also the Empowerment Sharecast, you know, my weekly free card pulls I do for the collective and messages. And if you want a personal card pull, and this month I'm pulling rune stones as well. So, because we're using a deck that has runes in it. So we've been having fun with that. So definitely check that out too as another way to connect in with the cards.
Yeah, and then somehow the cards always show up, you know, like, well, the life shows up in resonance with the cards. So somehow it always aligns. So it's a good guidance. It's additional tools to help to guide you through your passages of growth. So highly recommend. So thank you very much. And yeah, with regards to me, same as always, you can find me and my offerings on moonlightsoul369.com and also my social media. And yeah, as always, Marisa, it was a pleasure. And I look forward to seeing you for the new moon in Gemini next.
Before we know it, we'll be back, but you'll be somewhere else. So,
Yeah, I think I'll be back in Slovakia for that one.
okay. Well, I look forward to it.
So thank you everybody for tuning in. And until next time, bye everyone.